Welcome to the Explainer. You know, when it comes to special education, there's this really important document that's basically a student's personal roadmap to success. It's called the Individualized Education Program, or IEP. So today, we're going to break it all down, what it is, who builds it, and why it's such a game changer for so many students.
Okay, so before we really get into the weeds, think about it like this. If you were going to build a house, you wouldn't just start throwing bricks around and hope it all works out, right? Of course not. You need a really detailed plan, a blueprint that guides every single decision. Well, in the world of education, the IEP is that blueprint. But it's actually even more than that. It's a legally binding promise. It's a plan that a whole team writes together to map out a student's unique needs and all the specific services they'll need to get what's called FAPE, a free, appropriate public education.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics of what an IEP is all about. Then, we'll look at who's actually on the team. After that, we'll dig into the foundation, this thing called the PLAF, before we talk about setting goals, all the supports, and of course, how we track progress. Let's jump in. So, what's the real goal of this educational blueprint? What is an IEP actually designed to do?
At its heart, the IEP is all about creating opportunity. It sets clear, achievable goals for the year, but it's really built on a philosophy of high expectations. The main idea is to make sure students can access the same curriculum as their classmates and to get them ready for life after high school, whether that's college, a job, or just living more independently. And this whole blueprint isn't just some casual agreement. It's built using a really structured 7-step process. This makes sure every single base is covered, from looking at data and setting goals to figuring out the right teaching methods and tracking how things are going. Pretty much everything we're talking about today fits into this official framework.
So who actually builds this thing? Well, it is definitely not a one-person job. A whole team, the IEP committee, comes together to put the plan in place.
The absolute key word here is collaboration. By law, the team must include the parents, a general ed teacher, a special ed teacher, someone from the school district, and, this is so important, the student themselves, whenever it makes sense. Everybody brings a different and totally vital perspective. This isn't something that's done to a student, it's done with them and their family.
Okay, now for what is maybe the most critical part of the whole blueprint, the foundation. In the IEP world, it goes by this, well, it's a clunky acronym, the PLAF. But don't get hung up on the name. What it does is what really matters.
I mean, think about it. Any great plan has to start with knowing exactly where you are right now. You can't map out a trip to somewhere new if you don't know your starting point, and the IEP is no different.
So what in the world does PLAFP stand for? It's Present Levels of Academic Achievement and Functional Performance. Just think of it as the "You Are Here" sticker on the map of a student's education. It gives a clear snapshot, using data, of what a student can do right now and explains how their disability impacts their learning.
And that snapshot is broken down into two main areas. On one side, you've got academic achievement, the school subjects like reading, writing, and math. And on the other side, you have functional performance. This covers all those essential life skills, things like communication, social skills, and behavior. You absolutely need both for the full picture.
A really well-written PLAFP is super practical. It doesn't use vague language, it uses objective data from lots of different sources. And, this is crucial, it's not just a list of problems. It also highlights the student's strengths and interests. The real test? Any teacher should be able to pick it up, read it, and know exactly where to start teaching.
So once that solid foundation is laid, the team's next job is to look to the horizon and decide on the destination for the year ahead. Right, so from that starting point, the team develops these measurable annual goals. And we're not talking about fuzzy wishes here. These are specific, concrete skills the student is expected to learn in one school year. And they're always tied directly back to the needs you saw in the PLAFP.
Having a destination is fantastic, but you need a way to actually get there, right? So the next part of the IEP is all about the toolkit of supports and services that's going to help the student reach those goals.
And that toolkit is pretty extensive. It can include things like specially designed instruction, which is all about changing how things are taught. There are related services like speech therapy. Then you have accommodations, which change how a student learns, and modifications, which can change what they learn. The plan even includes support for the teachers and staff.
A blueprint is only useful if you stop and check your work while you're building. You got to make sure the walls are straight, the foundation is solid. The exact same thing is true for an IEP.
So the IEP process actually has a couple of key checkpoints built right in for this. First, the plan has to say exactly how progress will be measured and reported so the team can make adjustments if they need to. And second, it lays out how the student will take part in those big statewide tests.
And it all comes together right here, on the signature page. This is way more than just paperwork. This is what makes the blueprint official. It's the whole team's way of saying, okay, we're all in this together. Let's get started.
In the end, the whole process really comes back to this one core idea, which comes straight from the federal law that created it. An IEP, at its very heart, is a collaboratively written plan to develop a program that meets the unique needs of the student. That says it all, really.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that an IEP is so much more than a legal document. When it's created and used the right way as a team, it becomes this living, breathing blueprint for success. It's not just about the words on the page. It's about how that plan is used to unlock a student's full potential.